The sirens wailed through the night, piercing the chaos like angry ghosts. Kelechi sprinted down an alley in Oshodi, lungs burning, sweat stinging his eyes. Behind him, EFCC officers shouted, their boots pounding closer. He turned a corner and tripped, crashing into a pile of trash bags. Blood dripped from his scraped elbow onto the concrete. Somewhere in the distance, a woman screamed. Across town, Amina stood in front of a cracked mirror in a club restroom, her face swollen from a client's slap. She stared at herself, red lipstick smudged, eyes hollow. A tear traced her cheek, cutting through the foundation. She didn't recognize the girl in the glass. In that moment, two lives, broken, desperate, and hunted, stood on the edge of ruin. And yet, the story was far from over. Lagos was a city of noise and hustle, where dreams often died under the hot sun. Kelechi, a skinny 24-year-old with tired eyes, sat in a cramped cyber cafe in Oshodi. His inbox was full of bad news, application rejected. Another job gone. He'd graduated with a computer science degree 2 years ago, but no company wanted him. No experience, they said. How do I get experience if nobody gives me a chance? He thought, frustration burning in his chest. His phone buzzed. It was his mother, her voice weak. Kelechi, the landlord, came again. He says we're out if we don't pay rent. And Chidi's school fees, they'll send him home by Friday. Kelechi's heart sank. He looked at his empty wallet, then at the other guys in the cafe. Some typed fast, others counted naira notes, laughing. How are they making it? He wondered, his stomach tight with worry. That night, he walked home through Oshodi's muddy streets, dodging Okadas and hawkers. His family's one-room apartment smelled of kerosene and sweat. His mother coughed in her sleep, her medicine bottle empty. Chidi, his 14-year-old brother, sat in a corner, reading a torn textbook by candlelight. Kelechi clenched his fists. I have to do something. The next evening, Kelechi's old friend Tunde pulled up in a shiny black SUV. Tunde was different now, gold chain, designer shoes, a wide grin. Kelly, my guy, he called, leaning out the window. Why you dey suffer like this? You with your big brain, still broke? Come join me in Yahoo Yahoo. One deal, and you'll clear all your problems. Kelechi frowned. Tunde, that's fraud. EFCC is catching people left and right. You want me in prison? Tunde laughed. Only careless boys get caught. You're too smart for that, Kelechi. Think about your mother, your brother. You want them to suffer? Kelechi shook his head, but Tunde's words stuck like glue. At home, his mother's cough grew worse. The hospital bills sat on the table, mocking him. Chidi looked at him with hopeful eyes, waiting for a miracle. Kelechi's resolve weakened. What choice do I have? The next day, he met Tunde at a bar. Show me how it works, he said quietly. In mile 12, across the city, Amina carried a tray of groundnuts on her head, shouting, "Buy your groundnut." The market was loud, traders yelling, buses honking, but her sales were slow. At 22, Amina was the only hope for her family. Her father died in a tanker accident a year ago, leaving her to care for her siblings, Zainab and Musa. Their landlord was cruel, threatening to throw them out if they didn't pay rent soon. That night, her friend Tina visited their small shanty. Tina's weave bounced, her nails sparkled, and she smelled like expensive perfume. "Amina, why are you killing yourself in this market?" Tina said, sipping a soda. "Come with me to the club. Rich men will pay good money just to sit with you. You'll eat well, pay rent, everything." Amina's stomach twisted. She knew Tina meant prostitution. "I'm not that kind of girl," she snapped. Tina shrugged. "Fine. But when your landlord locks your door, don't come crying." Later, Zainab, only 10, tugged at Amina's wrapper. "Sis, I'm hungry." Her big eyes were wet with tears. Amina hugged her tightly, her own eyes stinging. "I'll find a way," she whispered. "I promise." Tunde took Kelechi to a dimly lit room with laptops and a buzzing generator. "This is where the magic happens," Tunde said, grinning. He showed Kelechi how to craft a scam email. Make it sound real. Talk about a dead prince or a lost inheritance. Foreigners love that stuff. Kelechi's first target was an old American man. His email was simple: "You've inherited $500,000 from a Nigerian prince. Send $200 to process the transfer." His hands shook as he hit send. 3 days later, 800,000 Nigerian nairas landed in his account. Kelechi stared at the numbers, his heart racing. It was more money than he'd ever seen. He paid Chidi's school fees, bought medicine for his mother, and stocked their kitchen with rice, beans, and oil. His mother hugged him, tears in her eyes. "God has blessed you, Kelechi," she said. But Kelechi felt sick. He hadn't earned this money, he'd stolen it. At night, he lay awake, guilt gnawing at him. Amina stood outside a noisy nightclub, her heart pounding like a drum. Tina had convinced her to come, promising easy money. Inside, the air was thick with smoke and cheap cologne. A man in a shiny suit bought her a drink, his eyes greedy. "Spend the night with me," he said, sliding 50,000 Nigerian nairas across the table. "There's more if you're good." Amina thought of Zainab's hungry eyes, Musa's torn shoes. She took the money and followed him to a hotel. Afterward, she locked herself in the bathroom, scrubbing her skin until it hurt. "What am I doing?" she whispered to her reflection, tears falling. The next week, Tina taught her to pickpocket. Amina learned to slip phones from drunk men's pockets at clubs or snatch wallets in traffic jams. Each theft paid for food or rent, but it chipped away at her soul. She avoided mirrors, afraid of the stranger she'd become. Kelechi's scams got bigger. He built fake investment websites, promising huge returns. The money rolled in, 2 million, then 5 million Nigerian nairas. He bought a second-hand car, moved his family to a better apartment, and even hired other boys to join his team. Tunde called him a king, and for a moment, Kelechi felt like one. He wore new clothes, ate at nice restaurants, and sent Chidi to a better school. But the high life came with shadows. He checked his phone constantly, afraid of EFCC tracking him. He stopped sleeping well, jumping at every loud noise. This can't last, he told himself, but the money kept him going. Amina's life changed too. She bought Zainab and Musa new clothes and paid the landlord for 3 months. But every night at the club felt like a wound. She started pickpocketing more, targeting distracted men in markets or buses. One day, she stole a phone and sold it for 20,000 Nigerian nairas. It felt like a victory, but her heart was heavy. One night, everything fell apart for Kelechi. EFCC officers raided their hideout, shouting and waving guns. Tunde screamed, "Run!" Kelechi dove out a window, scraping his knees as he fled through a dark alley. He heard Tunde's shouts as they handcuffed him. Kelechi hid in a friend's house, his heart pounding. "I'm next," he thought, sweat dripping down his face. Across town, Amina's world crumbled too. A client turned violent, slapping her when she demanded payment. "You're nothing," he sneered, throwing her out of his car. She stumbled home, bruised and bleeding, her spirit broken. "This life will kill me," she sobbed, curling up on her mat. Zainab found her and held her hand, too young to understand but old enough to care. One morning, Kelechi saw a news report on his phone. A Canadian man he'd scammed had lost his life savings and taken his own life. The words hit like a hammer. "I did this," Kelechi whispered, his hands shaking. "I'm no better than a murderer." He thought of his mother's prayers, Chidi's trust. He couldn't keep living like this. That same day, Amina limped to the market, her face swollen. A woman approached her, her eyes kind. "I'm Grace, from Hope Rising NGO," she said, handing Amina a flyer. "We train young women in skills like tailoring, free of charge. You can start over, Amina." Amina clutched the flyer, hope flickering like a small flame. She looked at Grace and nodded. "I want to try." Kelechi tracked down his old lecturer, Mr. Okoye, who had always seen his potential. "I've done bad things," Kelechi confessed, his voice low. "I want to make it right." Mr. Okoye didn't judge. He connected Kelechi with a small IT firm needing coders. The pay was small, nothing like the millions from scams, but it was honest. Kelechi shut down his fake websites and started fixing computers. At night, he studied coding tutorials, determined to rebuild his life. Amina joined the NGO's tailoring program. She spent hours learning to cut fabric and stitch designs. Her first dress sold for 5,000 Nigerian nairas, and she cried with pride. Slowly, she saved enough to rent a small shop. She swore she'd never go back to the clubs or the streets. But the road wasn't easy. Kelechi's new job barely covered the bills, and he lived in fear of EFCC knocking. Amina struggled to attract customers, competing with bigger tailors. Some nights, she and her siblings went to bed hungry. But they kept pushing, one small step at a time. Months later, Kelechi started a free coding class for kids in Oshodi. He stood in a small room, teaching them how to build simple apps. "I made mistakes," he told them. "I thought crime was the answer, but it only brings pain. You're smart, use your brain for good." The kids listened, their eyes wide, and Kelechi felt a purpose he'd never known. Amina trained other girls in her area, sharing her sewing machine and her story. "You are stronger than you know," she told them. "You don't need the streets to survive." One girl, Blessing, reminded Amina of herself, scared but determined. Amina gave her extra lessons, hoping to save her from the life she'd escaped. Not everyone made it out. Tunde was sentenced to 5 years in Kirikiri prison. Amina's friend Oluchi died after a robbery went wrong, shot by a security guard. Another boy from Kelechi's crew, Io, overdosed on drugs, chasing the high life. The streets of Lagos were a trap, claiming lives without mercy. Kelechi and Amina didn't know each other, but their stories were tied to the same harsh city. They carried scars, guilt, fear, shame, but also hope. They'd fought their way out, step by painful step, and found something worth living for. Kelechi's coding classes grew, and he started getting small contracts to build websites for local businesses. The money wasn't much, but it was clean. Enough to keep his family afloat and his conscience clear. Every Sunday, he visited his mother, bringing her favorite soup. She smiled wider now, her lungs stronger. "I'm proud of you, Kelechi," she said, holding his hands like he was her miracle. One evening, as he taught a group of kids how to build a mobile app, a boy asked, "Did you always want to be a teacher?" Kelechi paused, smiled softly. "I used to want to be rich. Now I want to be right." Amina's shop became a small success. She sewed dresses for weddings, church events, and even small boutiques. Zainab and Musa helped after school, sweeping the floors, threading needles. One Saturday, she stood in front of her shop and hung up a hand-painted sign, "Thread of Hope, Tailoring with Purpose." That night, she stitched a gown from leftover fabric, bright blues and deep reds, embroidering the word freedom along the hem. She didn't plan to sell it. She hung it on the wall as a reminder of who she was and what she had survived. The street still called, loud, familiar, and tempting. But Kelechi and Amina had stopped listening. Life was still hard. Rent still loomed. But they had found something money couldn't buy, peace. They had made it out. Scarred, yes. Changed, forever. But alive, with fragile dreams, stitched back together one honest thread at a time. Kelechi's story is real for so many people out there. If this story touched your heart, please hit the subscribe button. Tell us in the comments, what would you do if you were in Kelechi's shoes? Share this video with a friend who needs to hear this. And don't forget to turn on the bell so you don't miss the next powerful story.